Let's get into it. It is 3:30 a.m. I cannot wake up the baby. Sold Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. We got Trump on the podcast, and Joe Rogan and Trump destroy Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Donald Trump, of course, goes at Kamala Harris. I got a couple of clips of that. 3 actually. And then Joe Rogan actually digs in on Tim Walz as a terrible VP pick, which I found very interesting as well. But I mean, obviously, right? I mean, everybody has seen Tim. We've all seen Tim Walz, okay? He has the energy of a housewife. And now listen, I have no problem with housewives. I'm just saying he has a very flamboyant energy about him. It's very odd. It's weird, in fact. Let's get into this Trump clip first, and then we'll go on to some others. Let's go.
You need to have a country. You need borders. You need fair elections. And I'll tell you the other thing you need is you need a free and fair press. One of the things I like about doing a show like this, can you imagine Kamala doing this show?
I could imagine her doing the show.
She'd be laying on the floor.
She was supposed to do it, and she might still do it, and I hope she does.
She's not going to do it.
I will talk to her like a human being. I would try to have a conversation with her. If she did this kind of an interview with you, I hope she does, because it would be a mess. She'd be laying on the floor comatose. You'd be saying, call in the medics. I think we'd have a fine conversation. I think I'd be able to talk to her. I wouldn't try to interview her. I'd just try to have a conversation with her and hopefully get to know her as a human being. That was my goal, having her on. Trying to get her to express herself just as I don't think these formats are good. I don't think that two people, first of all, I hate the idea of the presidential debates because I hate the idea of a time limitation on complex ideas. Also, you have to break.
I think you have to have the debates, though.
Right, but the way they do the debates, I think, is the wrong way to do it. I think they should have a conversation. I think you and Kamala, you sit across a table with no one in the room but the two of you. Of course, you're not going to shout at each other. Of course, you're not going to insult each other.
I mean, it may get. They used to do it that
Hopefully, it wouldn't,
way.
But that would be the way to do it.
They used to do it that way.
To put cameras on you with no one interfering with press with checking whether or not it's factual, especially when it's biased, because they checked you all those times and they didn't check her with clearly things that were inaccurate. Right. So have two people just have a conversation with us without a time constraint. And also this idea they cut off the microphone.
Well, and no crowd.
No crowd. Crazy too, because you're good at working a crowd.
I would rather have a crowd. But
of course you would. You're good at crowds.
But I had no. So they gave me an alternative. I don't think he wanted to debate.
Why did they want no crowd?
Because
what was the
I
argument?
think they thought I wasn't going to accept it. So I believe what they wanted to do is have me not accept. So they gave me a deal I couldn't refuse, and I said, I'll do it. Okay? It's like the mob.
Right.
I'll take it. So they came to me. They said, we'll debate Joe Biden. You know, that thing got tremendous ratings, too. That was crazy. But we'll debate Joe Biden, but you can't have a crowd. They also wanted sitting down. I said, that's the only thing. I said, look, you gotta stand up. You can't really sit down.
Right.
You know, in the old days, they did sit down a little bit, but
he gets tired.
You got to stand up. And they agreed to it. It was a very tough thing. It almost killed it. They wanted to have like desks, we said. I said, I think we should stand up. And that was the only thing I asked for. I said, we got to stand up. I thought it looked bad for like the public, but they said no crowd and cut off the mic. And I said, I can live with it. I mean, I can live with it. And they thought I was going to reject it. And then they would say he didn't want to debate Sleepy Joe.
Right.
That's what they thought was going to happen.
Well, they tried to say that with you and Kamala as well. They tried to say that you didn't want to debate her as well.
No,
but
by the way, with her, number one, I'm leading. Number two, they also said it with the primary. So I had like 10, 12 guys, right? In the primary, no stupid guys. I mean, they're governors and they're senators. They're not stupid people. Some are stupid, but not all of them. And all my guys said, you have to be in the debate. I said, why? I'm leading by 74 points. The closest guy to me, I'm like 60 points, 70 points higher. Why would I stand there like an idiot for 2 hours and let every one of them scream at me? I'm going to be the focus. What?
Right.
And I said, I'm not debating. And it was a very smart thing because, they just killed themselves.
The Republican primaries.
Yeah, the Republican primaries. I like debating. I think you have to debate. But I like
it has to be fair.
I like debating like the Rosie O'Donnell debate. I like debating when you have a crowd. Remember the Rosie O'Donnell?
Yeah, that was very funny. Megan
crazy
Kelly.
thing, Megan. That was a hell of a question, man. If I didn't come up with that answer,
it was a great line.
Well, what it was is, we had 28,000 people. That was the Cleveland Arena where the Cavaliers played.
Right.
LeBron James. I'm not a big fan of LeBron James, but he is a good basketball player. But, that was and when I said that, the place went crazy. And she kept talking. No, she had like 10 other.
Yeah, well, Megan said you said it to other people and you admitted you did. But it was funny. It was a comedic timing moment.
It was fine.
That's what they wanted to avoid.
It was lucky I did it because she was drowned. Oh, she wasn't finished. That question, but she kept talking, but you couldn't hear. To this day, they don't know what she said, but it wasn't positive. So anyway, but we had a good time.
Well, it's comedic timing, and that's the reason why to have a debate in front of a large audience. And then they probably
how did
thought
I do
you
with the
would
Al
stack the
Smith
deck.
dinner? I got very good reviews on that.
That was great. Very funny.
It's
very funny stuff. The Tim Walz stuff was very funny.
Tim Walz, yeah.
He's funny.
That's a real beauty.
That's a crazy one. She said that she had picked him, and this is one of the questions I want to ask her, when she was sleep deprived. She said she was suffering from sleep deprivation when she picked him, which is just like, hey, maybe take a nap.
So I was, okay, look, let's see how it all turns out. I think we're going to win. I think we're way ahead now. I think we're way ahead. But can
I bring you back to 2020?
Lose, I think they're going to look at two things. They're going to say they should have had a primary, even if it was a short primary.
Yes.
They shouldn't have picked her. And then she's going to say I shouldn't have picked this guy.
She shouldn't have picked that guy.
That guy's a disaster.
The lying about Tiananmen Square.
Everything.
Admitted that, the military record, assistant coach versus head coach. Yes.
Little things. So I did McDonald's last week.
I saw that.
And I actually got a call from your friends at Google, from Sundar. That's pretty good, right? He said, this is the biggest thing we've had in years.
At McDonald's?
At McDonald's. Did you know that? It was one of the...
It was funny.
Who's a great guy, by the way. But he said, this McDonald's thing, I want to tell you, it's one of the biggest things we've ever had on Google. It just hit. But the reason I did it, and I actually, you never know about this stuff. I thought it was a throwaway. Mm-hmm. I didn't think our conversation was a throwaway, but I thought I'd walk in.
Man, very interesting. You're friends at Google, he says to Joe. What's that about? Anybody in the comments, let me know what that's about. Joe's friends at Google? I don't know. But very, very interesting. Joe digging into Tim Walz a little bit. It's hard not to when you see the guy, when you hear the guy. Oh, I'm an admitted knucklehead, you know. my wife is an English teacher, so that's why I lied. Yeah. What? Hey, what? You want to run that again? Yeah. Let me just. For people who don't know, when it came to the whole Tiananmen Square thing, like sometimes I misspeak and I made up a date completely and I lied about where I was. It's just because my wife's an English teacher. You have to understand. Sometimes they come after me and my dog. It's like, what's going on with Tim Walz, man? What's going on with that guy? Honestly. Anyway, let's get into the next clip. Donald Trump getting at Kamala a little bit.
It's just so crooked. The press is so crooked.
It's crooked, but it's also they're diminishing themselves. They're killing all their credibility, and it's opening up the credibility to new media. It's opening up the credibility to independent media. All these.
The worst I've ever seen, though, and I've seen the worst. I mean, I've been a part of it. I've seen the worst. Kamala goes on 60 Minutes, gave an answer that a child wouldn't give. It was so bad, and 60 Minutes took the answer out. They took the whole, and they put another answer in.
They edited it deceptively.
Which didn't make sense either, but it was better. They took it wasn't editing. It was fraud. I think it's the biggest scandal in broadcast history, what happened to CBS. So you have CBS 60 Minutes. That's a news program. It's not an entertainment program. It's under their news. It's the head of their news thing. She gives an answer that shows that she's essentially incompetent. And they took the answer. Could you imagine them doing that for
me? We can
me?
show it if you want people to see it. Can we show it? No?
Sure.
We'll get in trouble. We'll get copyright strike.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is...
You legit can't show this. For some reason, when it comes to YouTube, that's why Jamie's saying no, and whoever did this on Twitter decided, oh, I can do this because it's Twitter. Nobody. You cannot show that clip. I tried to do a whole video. You think I didn't want to bring that video to you guys? That wildness that she did in that interview? CBS attacked my channel right away. They were like, oh, you can use the video. You just have to take out every single part where Kamala speaks. I'm like, what? That's exactly what they wanted. Let me just play the rest of this.
It's drastic, but what was interesting was the other full version was available initially. It was like a preview.
Somebody made a big mistake.
Somebody put that preview out
there. Some kid put the preview out.
Exactly.
And then the bosses did this or that. And then all of a sudden they said, we got a problem.
Exactly. And then
they got caught by mistake.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Wild interview that one was. I was surprised that they did that at all. Didn't even make sense. None of it made sense. I did this whole video where I was actually able to read her lips and hear the audio. Like I went, so I do audio engineering. I was able to take away the track and actually hear what she was saying. And the things she was saying as they're going back and forth, the way they're kind of drowning her out, and then the interviewer starts speaking, but it's like B-roll. Oh, it's just word salad. It's wild. Absolutely wild stuff. But yeah, Kamala Harris butchered that one. Butchered the Fox interview as well. She has just been doing terrible interview after terrible interview. But you know what? We were complaining at first that she was avoiding the media, and at least we can't say that anymore. She's getting in front of cameras. She's doing her thing. And it's terrible, just like we all thought. Here's another clip for you guys.
The rhetoric is also that you're Hitler, and that in order to stop Hitler, you have to do whatever it takes.
That was okay, yeah.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, you're hearing this now. Kamala compared you to, said your love of Hitler yesterday.
Kamala's a very low IQ person. She's a very low IQ. I'm for taking tests, too. I think anybody that runs for president they should give them tests. And it's not an age thing. It's not based. If you look back on history, 70s and 80s, some of your greatest leaders in the world history, long-time world history, they were in their 70s and their 80s. But I think you should take cognitive tests. I think they say it's unconstitutional. But
that's ridiculous.
I think Kamala should have a test because there's something missing. There's something wrong with her.
Well, I think it's pressure. I think the pressure and the scrutiny, you've been a celebrity for a long time and you understand what this is like. But for someone who's in her late 40s, who becomes the vice president, who runs for president, becomes the vice president, and then all of a sudden the weight of the world is on your shoulders and there's all these people paying attention. A lot of people clam up.
But you either have it or you don't.
Correct.
Look, this is an interview. We've covered a lot of territory, right? And it's fine. I don't care. I want to. I think it's much more interesting. To do an interview with Anderson Cooper, a crazy softball interview. She took 2 days off and she studied all day long, and then she comes out with a result that was a real embarrassment. That was a really bad interview. She couldn't answer a question, and every question's not answered. I mean, like, what would you do your first day in office? Okay, I'll build a wall. I won't build a wall. There's 100 things you can say. Just say anything, right? There's something off with her.
Well, I also think,
Joe, we're dealing with the smartest people. They hate when I say, when I call President Xi, they said, he called President Xi brilliant. Well, he's a brilliant guy. He controls 1.4 billion people with an iron fist. I mean, he's a brilliant guy, whether you like it or not. And they go crazy.
Right. It doesn't mean he's not evil, or it doesn't mean he's not
of course not.
Dangerous.
But actually, we have evil people in our country.
Yes. And there's
facts. No lies there at all. And yeah, that interview with Anderson Cooper, that's another one. I'm telling you, a lot of these interviews that she does, they try to kind of make it where you cannot cover the interview. And it's against YouTube's policy. It's against the law. It's against the law of fair use, journalistic fair use. I know for a fact. I've studied this stuff very closely. Kamala Harris, Anderson Cooper, things to do. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I hope they let me play this.
And you point out, too, when you're running for vice president. Right, I know. You said
let's take, for example, people. Bring down the cost here. The work that I have done that has been about recognizing.
No. Whatever. I'll just move on with the clips. But there is a clip where he's like, why didn't you do something? She's like, well, there's things to do. And a lot of things need to be done. But there's some things to do, and we'll get that done. It's like, what? What are you, Lil Wayne? Are you a rapper or something? What was that? It was crazy. But Kamala Harris, she ends up declining the Joe Rogan interview. But you know what? Obviously, she can't handle doing an unscripted interview for 3 hours like Trump just did. Obviously, she can't handle that. Okay? But also, and she says it's due to scheduling. That's what they've come out and said, her campaign. Scheduling. Oh, it's just, we know you have the biggest podcast in the world, but we have a thing that we have to go and do, and we just can't move things around. I know. So obviously that's a lie. But obviously, you got to remember how many Joe Rogan just had a guest on, Michael Malice, who called her the R word, who is the person who pushed the wine mom meme of her the most. He's the one that called her America's wine mom, and everybody went along with it. They tore her up in that interview. He has had at least 7 interviews where he has gone in on her, whether it's about freedom of speech or just her as a person or being unlikable. And on top of that, he's amazingly close with Tulsi Gabbard. After her camp got wind of everything surrounding Kamala Harris in the Joe Rogan sphere, in the whole JRE episodes, they're probably like, no, we can't do that. If you look at Joe Rogan and he talks about Trump, you have one thing from 5 years ago where he's like, I don't want to help that guy. I never want that guy. I don't want the guy on my podcast. I don't want to help him. After that, it's nothing but positive stuff. It's like, I'll vote for him over Biden. He's actually really good. He's actually really funny. So Trump was like, I'm good to go on this. I have interviews with people who hate me all the time. Kamala Harris does not have interviews with people who hate her. She's not used to that type of smoke. So I completely understand why she said no to that interview. But there you go. Joe Rogan. You know what I will say when it comes to the whole Joe Rogan Trump thing? I'm very excited about it. And it's not just about a podcast. It's history, them sitting down together. It really is history. We will look back and see that. But also, it shows that he does care about America. Because that people's faith was really faltering there for a long time. But one thing I wish that Joe Rogan was more Joe Rogan during that interview. I wish he was able to get comfortable enough that if he just felt like he was just hanging out with a friend and he could push back on some things. Like, I wish he got a little more conspiratorial, because that's the person that you want to run that conspiratorial filter through. You want to run it through someone who is a president. When they talked about aliens, bring up some Bob Lazar, show them some stuff, talk about, things coming in and out of the water, angels and demons, talk about all that stuff. When they were talking about the JFK stuff, talk about everything with the JFK thing. Like, Joe has an extensive knowledge of everything surrounding that. I wish he just let more of that come out during the interview. But all in all, it was an interview that needed to happen. And I think it's going to show a lot of people, what did it get on YouTube so far? It's going to show a lot of people more of Trump, because I'm going for the more salacious things. He goes after Kamala Harris. I got to talk about that. But there's a segment where they talk about energy. And I don't mean in like a metaphysical sense. Like, Trump is talking about energy. It's been 5 hours. It's at 5.1 million views. It's getting 1 million views per hour. I was predicting 72 hours. It would be at 80 million views. It looks like it's about to hit that marker. Check that out, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump killing it. Absolutely killing it. But yeah, I wish Joe was just a little bit more Joe in this interview. He was just able to relax a little more and really push on some things. Like, why not get into the deep state a little more? Why not be like, hey man, I'm asking you what it's like when you become president, but I want to know, do they pull you into a room and tell you what's what? Or do you walk into the room and you have power over them? Do they really surround you and say, hey, listen, there's some things you can and can't do? Did they show you alien bodies? Like, he should have got a little more Joe, you know what I mean? But again, all in all, you can't hate on it. It's a massive interview. He was probably nervous as all hell, and great job. Absolutely great job. I got more to come on this one. I think this is the last episode in this studio. You're going to hear me say that a lot in the next few episodes, because this is my last day in this studio, but I might shoot another one right now. Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications. It helps the channel tremendously. And other than that, I'm out.